They'll be looking for reasons to reject you. Don't give them any. What happens when a brilliant young black student is denied his rightful place at an elite school, not because he lacks ability, but because the system is designed to exclude him? Marcus Johnson was invisible at Westfield Academy. Just the janitor's son. Until one day, he solved a mathematical problem that left teachers baffled. But when he applied to become a student, they found every excuse to reject him. Then disaster struck Westfield. A financial crisis threatened to close the school forever. Only one person could solve the impossible mathematical puzzle to save it, but why would he help the very people who deemed him unworthy? The answer will leave you stunned. Dear viewer, if you are watching my story for the first time, I humbly request you write the location from where you are watching right now, subscribe this channel and press the bell icon now not to miss the notifications of my daily published new stories. Thank you, and let's dive into the full story. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Marcus Johnson, a slender 15-year-old with intelligent eyes, moved silently through the empty hallways of Westfield Academy. While other teenagers were at home enjoying their evenings, Marcus was helping his father, Walter, clean the prestigious private school where only the children of the elite received their education. "Make sure you dust those trophy cases extra careful tonight, son," Walter called out, his voice echoing in the empty corridor. "Dr. Harrington is hosting some big donors tomorrow." Marcus nodded, carefully polishing the gleaming awards that celebrated achievements he could only dream of. His fingers lingered on a mathematics medal. Numbers had always made sense to him in a way people rarely did. "I'll finish up here, Dad. You take care of the science wing." When Walter disappeared around the corner, Marcus pulled out a discarded calculus textbook he'd rescued from the recycling bin. While wiping down desks, he'd flipped through pages, absorbing complex equations that most Westfield students struggled to comprehend. From the shadows of a doorway, Dr. Victoria Harrington observed the scene with narrowed eyes. The school's principal was immaculately dressed even at this late hour, her pearl necklace catching the dim light. "Mr. Johnson," she called sharply, causing Walter to nearly drop his mop as he returned. "I expect the main hall to be spotless for tomorrow's fundraiser. The future of Westfield depends on these donors." "Yes, ma'am. Marcus and I will make sure everything's perfect." Dr. Harrington's gaze swept over Marcus as if he were merely another piece of cleaning equipment. "Just ensure your boy stays out of the way. These parents pay a premium for their children to attend Westfield. We can't have." She paused, distractions. After she clicked away on designer heels, Walter sighed. "Don't mind her, son." "I don't, Dad." But Marcus did mind. He minded being invisible until someone needed something cleaned. He minded the way his brilliance went unnoticed while mediocre wealthy students received endless praise. Later that night, as Walter drove their aging sedan home to their small apartment on the other side of town, Marcus stared at the passing streetlights, each one illuminating a determination growing inside him. "Dad," he said quietly, "I want to go to Westfield." Walter's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his expression a mixture of pride and concern visible in the dashboard light. "That school costs more than I make in a year, Marcus." "I know. But they have scholarships. And I'm smart enough." Walter didn't respond immediately. They both knew Marcus was more than smart enough. He was exceptional. But they also knew that in this world, being exceptional wasn't always enough when you were black and poor. "We'll see, son," Walter finally said, unable to deny the dream in his son's eyes. "We'll see." The memory came to Marcus in fragments, sharp, painful shards that still made him wince. It had happened 6 months ago, when curiosity had gotten the better of him. He'd been dusting the empty classrooms after school as usual when the advanced mathematics textbooks on Ms. Eleanor Blackwell's desk caught his eye. The problems were complex, beautiful puzzles that called to him. Without thinking, he'd sat down, pulled out a spare notebook, and begun solving equations. So absorbed was he that he didn't hear Ms. Blackwell return. Her voice had cracked like a whip. "What do you think you're doing? Those are not for you." Before Marcus could explain, she'd yanked him from the chair by his collar. In her fury at finding the janitor's son touching her precious materials, she'd shoved him hard against the chalkboard, his lower back striking the metal chalk tray. The pain had been immediate and blinding. When Walter found him curled up in the hallway minutes later, Marcus couldn't even speak through the tears. "We reported it," Walter told Mr. James Coleman, the only teacher who had shown genuine concern about the incident. They sat in the school cafeteria before opening hours, voices low. "Let me guess," Mr. Coleman replied, his dark eyes sad but unsurprised. "Nothing happened." Walter nodded. "They said there was no evidence. That Marcus shouldn't have been sitting in a classroom in the first place." His hands trembled with suppressed rage. "My boy's back still gives him pain. Doctor says he bruised his vertebrae." Mr. Coleman's jaw tightened. As one of the few black faculty members at Westfield, he understood all too well how the system protected its own. "Your son is brilliant, Walter. I've seen his work when he thinks no one's looking. The way he corrects advanced physics problems on my board." He leaned forward. "That boy deserves to be sitting in these classrooms, not cleaning them." That evening, Marcus stood in front of their bathroom mirror, twisting to see the faded bruise. The physical pain was manageable now, but something deeper remained, a wound to his dignity that wouldn't heal. "Marcus?" Walter called through the door. "You okay in there?" "I'm fine, Dad." But they both knew it was a lie. Later, at their small kitchen table cluttered with bills, Walter placed a Westfield Academy application in front of his son. "Mr. Coleman helped me get this," he explained, watching Marcus's eyes widen. "There's a full scholarship available. All you have to do is pass their entrance exam." Marcus's fingers trembled as they touched the glossy brochure. The same emblem he polished on trophy cases every night was now a possible key to his future. "What about Ms. Blackwell?" "She'll be there." Walter sighed. "You can't let one person's cruelty determine your whole life, son. Besides," he added with a small smile, "wouldn't it be something to show her just how wrong she was about you?" Marcus stared at the application, imagining himself in Westfield's classrooms, raising his hand to answer questions instead of raising a mop to clean floors. Despite the lingering pain in his back, a constant reminder of the obstacles he faced, hope flickered to life. "I'll do it," he said finally. "I'll show them all what I can do." Walter clapped a hand on his shoulder, eyes shining with fierce pride. "That's my boy." Neither of them spoke the harder truth, that talent and determination might not be enough in a world that had already decided who belonged and who didn't. But tonight, they allowed themselves to dream. The Westfield Academy administration office gleamed with old money and tradition. Mahogany paneling lined the walls, and portraits of distinguished alumni, all white faces, stared down with painted superiority. Marcus shifted uncomfortably in a leather chair that probably cost more than all the furniture in their apartment combined. Scholarship candidates must demonstrate exceptional academic potential and exemplary character, the admissions secretary explained, her smile not quite reaching her eyes as she regarded Walter's janitor uniform. "The competition is intense." Walter nodded solemnly. "My son is exceptional." The secretary's smile tightened. "I'm sure he is. The application fee is $250. Marcus watched his father's expression remain carefully neutral, though he knew what $250 meant: their electricity bill, groceries for 2 weeks, or the medication for his back pain. Walter reached for his worn wallet without hesitation. Later that night, surrounded by paperwork at their kitchen table, the reality of what they were attempting settled heavily between them. "They want recommendation letters from previous teachers," Marcus said, tapping the form. "And a list of extracurricular activities and leadership positions." Walter rubbed his tired eyes. "Mr. Coleman already agreed to write you a letter. As for extracurriculars..." He trailed off, both knowing that helping your father clean toilets wasn't what Westfield had in mind. "What about the math competitions I entered at my school?" Marcus suggested. He didn't mention that he'd won them all easily, or that the prizes had been nothing more than certificates because his public school couldn't afford anything more. As the application deadline approached, they worked every night, Walter taking extra shifts to cover the application fee, Marcus staying up late to perfect his personal essay. The school library became his sanctuary when their apartment lost power for 3 days because they couldn't pay the bill on time. One evening, while Walter cleaned Dr. Harrington's office, Marcus waited in the hall, reviewing practice questions for the entrance exam. The principal emerged unexpectedly, nearly tripping over the boy's outstretched legs. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, collecting herself. Her gaze fell to the Westfield practice materials in his hands, and her eyebrows rose. "Those are for applicants only." "I am an applicant, ma'am," Marcus replied quietly. Dr. Harrington's surprise quickly morphed into something between amusement and disbelief. "Are you now?" She studied him more carefully. "You're Johnson's boy, aren't you? The janitor's son?" "Yes, ma'am. My name is Marcus." "Well, Marcus," she said, the name sounding foreign on her tongue, "Westfield Academy has very high standards. Our students come from particular backgrounds. They've had certain advantages." "I understand," Marcus replied, meeting her gaze. "But the scholarship application says it's based on merit." Something flickered across her face, perhaps respect, perhaps annoyance at being challenged. "Indeed. Merit as defined by Westfield standards." She straightened her blazer. "Good luck, young man. You'll need it." As she walked away, Marcus felt the weight of what they were trying to accomplish. It wasn't just about passing a test, it was about being deemed worthy to enter a world that had never wanted people like him. The night before submissions were due, Mr. Coleman stopped by their apartment, an unprecedented visit that highlighted the gravity of the situation. "I wanted to give you this in person," he said, handing Marcus his recommendation letter in a sealed envelope. Then, lowering his voice, he added, "The scholarship committee has a blind spot for students like you, Marcus. They'll be looking for reasons to reject you. Don't give them any." After he left, Walter placed their completed application on the table, pages representing countless hours of work and hope. "No matter what happens," he told Marcus, "I'm proud of you for trying." Marcus nodded, but inside, he didn't just want to try. He wanted to succeed. He wanted to walk through Westfield's doors not with a mop, but with a student ID. He wanted to prove to everyone, especially to himself, that he belonged. His back twinged as he stood to embrace his father, a physical reminder of the obstacles already overcome and those still waiting. Tomorrow, they would submit the application together, taking the first step toward either triumph or heartbreak. Westfield Academy's examination hall buzzed with nervous energy as students from the city's most prestigious families adjusted their expensive watches and smoothed their tailored uniforms. Marcus stood out in his freshly pressed but clearly second-hand button-up shirt, clutching a pencil case held together with duct tape. "Remember what Mr. Coleman said," Walter murmured, straightening Marcus's collar in the hallway. "You know the material better than anyone. Just focus on the questions, not the people." Marcus nodded, trying to ignore the curious and dismissive glances from other applicants and their parents. A sharp pain shot through his lower back, stress always made it worse. "Dad, I need to stand up during the test sometimes. My back." "I know, son. I included the doctor's note with your accommodations request. They should allow it." But when Marcus entered the examination room, his heart sank. Supervising the test was none other than Ms. Eleanor Blackwell, the very teacher who had caused his injury. She didn't seem to recognize him as she coldly directed students to their assigned seats. "Excuse me," Marcus said quietly when he reached her desk. "I have a medical accommodation. I need to stand periodically due to a back injury." Ms. Blackwell frowned, glancing at her papers. "There's nothing noted here about special accommodations. My father submitted the doctor's documentation with my application." "Well, I don't have it," she replied dismissively. "You'll sit like everyone else. Any disruption will result in immediate disqualification." Marcus took his seat, pain already building in his lower back. 2 rows ahead, a boy in a cashmere sweater leaned over to his friend. "Isn't that the janitor's kid?" he whispered, not quietly enough. My father says they're just doing this for diversity points. No way they'll actually let him in. Marcus gripped his pencil tighter, focusing on the sealed test booklet in front of him. When Ms. Blackwell finally gave the signal to begin, he lost himself in the questions. The mathematics section felt like having a conversation with an old friend, complex but comfortable, challenging but familiar. Halfway through the 3-hour exam, the pain in his back became unbearable. Despite Ms. Blackwell's warning, Marcus discreetly stood beside his desk, continuing to work on the test while standing. "Sit down immediately." Ms. Blackwell's voice cut through the silence. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I have a medical condition. Are you refusing to follow instructions?" she demanded, approaching his desk. Everyone else manages to remain seated. Whispers rippled through the room. Marcus fought to keep his voice steady. "I submitted documentation. Perhaps this test is too stressful for you," she suggested coldly. "Or perhaps you're trying to communicate with other test takers." "No, ma'am. One more disruption, and you'll be escorted out," she declared before returning to her desk, making a note on his examination paper. Marcus slowly lowered himself back into the chair, teeth clenched against the pain. He could feel curious stares burning into his back, hear the barely suppressed snickers. The cashmere sweater boy caught his eye and smirked. For the remainder of the test, Marcus alternated between working furiously and shifting in his seat, trying to find a position that didn't send lightning bolts of pain through his spine. Despite everything, the answers flowed from his pencil with confidence and precision. When time was called, Ms. Blackwell collected the papers, pausing at Marcus's desk. "I'll be noting your disruptive behavior in my report to the admissions committee," she said quietly. As Marcus exited the examination hall, legs stiff and back throbbing, he found his father waiting anxiously. "How'd it go, son?" Marcus couldn't bring himself to detail the humiliation he'd endured. "I knew all the answers, Dad. Every single one." Walter's face broke into a proud smile, though concern lingered in his eyes. "That's my boy." Neither spoke about the cruel reality, that knowing all the answers might not be enough when playing a game where the rules were designed for Marcus to lose. The rejection letter arrived on a Tuesday, a thin envelope that already told the story before Marcus even opened it. He stood in their small kitchen, the official Westfield seal staring up at him like an accusation. "Dear Mr. Johnson," he read aloud to his father, voice steady despite the disappointment crushing his chest. "We regret to inform you that your application for admission to Westfield Academy has not been successful." Walter's face fell, but he quickly recovered. "Their loss, son. You're too good for them anyway." But Marcus couldn't let it go. "It says here despite impressive test scores, they had concerns about my character and ability to adapt to Westfield's rigorous environment." His hands trembled with anger. "My character? They don't even know me." The following morning, Walter requested an unusual meeting with Dr. Harrington, something he'd never done in his 15 years of employment at Westfield. "My son scored perfectly on your entrance exam," Walter stated calmly in her office, Marcus standing silently beside him. "I checked with Mr. Coleman. Not a single wrong answer." Dr. Harrington's expression remained impassive. "Test scores are only one factor in our admissions process, Mr. Johnson. We evaluate the whole student. My son stood during the exam because of a back injury, an injury he sustained at this school when a teacher assaulted him for sitting at a desk. We submitted medical documentation. Ms. Blackwell reported disruptive behavior and possible cheating," Dr. Harrington replied coolly. "And that assault allegation was investigated and dismissed." "By who?" Walter demanded, his composure slipping. "The same people who conveniently lost our medical documentation." The door opened, and Richard Pierce, a board member whose donations had built Westfield's new science wing, entered without knocking. His expensive suit and confident demeanor spoke of generational wealth. "Victoria, we need to discuss he stopped, noticing Walter and Marcus. I didn't realize you were busy with the maintenance staff." "Mr. Johnson was just leaving," Dr. Harrington said firmly. His son was denied admission, and he's having trouble accepting that. Richard Pierce's gaze swept dismissively over Marcus. Westfield has standards to maintain. Not everyone is suited to our environment. The implication hung heavily in the air. My son got a perfect score on your test, Walter repeated, voice tight. And we have 20 other applicants with perfect scores whose families have been Westfield legacies for generations, Pierce countered. Children who understand our traditions and values. Marcus, who had remained silent, finally spoke. What values would those be, sir? The room went still. Dr. Harrington's eyes widened at his audacity, while Pierce's face darkened. I think we're done here, Dr. Harrington said, standing. Mr. Johnson, I suggest you focus on your janitorial duties if you wish to remain employed. On the drive home, Walter's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I'm sorry, son. We knew it would be an uphill battle. Marcus stared out the window at Westfield's manicured grounds growing smaller in the distance. It's not your fault, Dad. After a moment, he added, I'm not giving up. Walter glanced at his son, surprised by the determination in his voice. What do you mean? I don't know yet, Marcus admitted. But this isn't over. What neither of them realized was how right he would be, and how soon Westfield Academy would come to regret underestimating the janitor's son. A month after the rejection, Marcus continued helping his father clean Westfield Academy. While the sting of rejection remained, something else was growing in its place, a quiet determination that manifested in unexpected ways. Late one evening, while wiping down surfaces in a finance office, Marcus noticed spreadsheets left open on a computer. Numbers had always spoken to him, and the patterns in these particular figures screamed of inefficiency and error. Without thinking, he jotted down notes on discrepancies he identified. What are you doing? Walter asked when he found his son scribbling equations instead of dusting. Their budget allocation model is fundamentally flawed, Dad, Marcus explained, eyes bright with the excitement of a puzzle solver. They're hemorrhaging money in 3 different departments because their formulas don't account for variable cost increases. Walter glanced nervously at the door. Marcus, we can't afford for you to get caught snooping in their business. I'm not snooping, Marcus protested. The numbers are right there, practically shouting at me. That night marked the beginning of Marcus's secret project. As he cleaned classrooms, he began leaving small corrections on homework assignments he spotted, using a distinctive purple pen. In the mathematics department, he solved complex equations that had been left on boards as challenges, always standing to work due to his persistent back pain, never sitting in the chairs that had once caused him so much trouble. Ms. Blackwell was the first to notice. Someone has been tampering with my classroom materials, she complained to Dr. Harrington one morning. They've solved the advanced calculus problem I left for my seniors, the one none of them could figure out for a week, and they've added an elegant proof I've never even seen before. Probably one of the other math teachers showing off, Dr. Harrington dismissed. But when similar mysterious solutions began appearing throughout the school, corrections to physics problems, improvements to chemical formulas, even an innovative approach to economic theory in the social studies department, the faculty became increasingly bewildered. On a particularly cold night in November, Marcus stayed later than usual, working on a complex mathematical model at the back of a rarely used classroom. The building was silent except for the distant hum of his father's floor buffer in another wing. So you're the mathematical phantom everyone's talking about. Marcus jumped at the voice, nearly dropping his chalk. A girl about his age stood in the doorway, Olivia Pierce, he recognized her immediately. Daughter of Richard Pierce, the board member who had dismissed him so easily. She was watching him with undisguised curiosity. I don't know what you're talking about, Marcus replied, moving to erase his work. Don't, she said, stepping forward. That's the most elegant solution to Chapman's theorem I've ever seen. How did you come up with that approach? Marcus hesitated, surprised by her genuine interest. It just makes sense to me. Olivia moved closer, studying both him and his work. You're the janitor's son. The one who aced the entrance exam but got rejected. Marcus stiffened. Yes. Everyone's been trying to figure out who's been leaving these mathematical breadcrumbs all over the school. She smiled slightly. The teachers are going crazy. Ms. Blackwell is convinced it's someone trying to make her look bad. Despite himself, Marcus felt a flicker of satisfaction. Then Olivia asked something unexpected. Why do you always stand to work? There are plenty of chairs. The question caught him off guard, vulnerability flashing across his face before he could hide it. I can't, sitting for too long causes pain. Because of what Ms. Blackwell did to you, Olivia stated, not a question. Marcus looked at her in shock. How do you know about that? People talk. Not everyone agrees with how things are done here. She glanced at his equations again. You should be a student here, not cleaning it at night. Before Marcus could respond, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Olivia quickly backed toward the door. I won't tell anyone your secret, she whispered. But maybe it's time others saw what you can really do. After she disappeared, Marcus stared at his equations gleaming in the dim light. For the first time since his rejection, he felt something shift, as if the numbers themselves were aligning to create an unexpected path forward. The following week, Marcus found a note taped beneath a desk he was cleaning. Meet me in the library after hours. Bring your math. Oh, he debated ignoring it. Getting involved with Olivia Pierce seemed dangerous. She represented everything Westfield stood for, the very system that had rejected him. Yet curiosity won out. The library was technically closed when Marcus slipped in using his father's keys. Olivia was already there, along with a tall black man Marcus recognized as Coach Thomas Williams, the athletics director. There he is, Olivia said, excitement in her voice. The mathematical genius I told you about. Coach Williams extended his hand. Thomas Williams. I've been hearing about some mysterious math was haunting our classrooms. His warm smile put Marcus at ease. Olivia thinks very highly of your abilities. Marcus shook his hand cautiously. Why am I here? Because talents like yours shouldn't be wasted, Coach Williams replied. And because the Westfield that rejected you isn't the Westfield some of us are fighting for. Over the next hour, Marcus found himself explaining complex mathematical theories while Coach Williams and Olivia listened intently. The coach, it turned out, had a background in engineering before becoming an educator. This young man shouldn't be emptying trash cans, Coach Williams said finally to Olivia. He should be in advanced placement classes. My father would never allow it, Olivia admitted, frustration evident. He practically wrote the check that built the science wing. What he says goes. Richard Pierce is only interested in people who look like him or who serve his interests, Coach Williams stated bluntly. Marcus's thoughts drifted to his own father. Dad's afraid of causing trouble. We need this job. The conversation was interrupted by the library door opening. Walter stood there, worry etched on his face. Marcus? Your shift ended an hour ago. I've been looking everywhere. Coach Williams stood immediately. Mr. Johnson, this is my fault. I wanted to speak with your son. Walter's expression remained guarded. About what? About the mathematical proofs he's been leaving all over the school. About his potential. About the fact that Westfield made a serious mistake rejecting him. As Walter processed this, Olivia stepped forward. My father is on the board that rejected Marcus. But he was wrong. Walter's eyes narrowed with recognition. You're Richard Pierce's daughter. I'm not my father, she replied firmly. And what's happening to Marcus isn't right. Later that night, as they drove home, Walter broke the silence. These people reaching out to you, it could be a setup. To get us fired. Coach Williams isn't like that, Marcus defended. And Olivia, she's different from her father. Pierce threatened to have me fired if we pursued the rejection appeal, Walter admitted. His family has donated millions to Westfield. So we just give up. Marcus challenged. Keep our heads down and keep cleaning their messes. Walter sighed heavily. I'm just trying to protect you, son. I know, Dad. But maybe it's time we stopped being invisible. The next day, Richard Pierce cornered his daughter in their expansive kitchen. I heard you've been associating with the janitor's boy, he said coldly. That needs to stop immediately. His name is Marcus, Olivia replied, and he's more brilliant than any student currently attending Westfield. I don't care if he's Einstein reincarnated. The Pierces have standards to maintain. We don't associate with the help. That help has been solving problems your precious board can't figure out, Olivia shot back. But you're too blinded by prejudice to see it. As Richard Pierce's face darkened with anger, across town, Marcus was making a decision that would soon bring these separate worlds into unexpected collision. December brought a crisis to Westfield Academy. Marcus overheard the first whispers while cleaning vents near the administrative offices. The audit found major discrepancies, one secretary whispered urgently to another. Dr. Harrington has called an emergency board meeting. That same evening, Walter returned from his shift with a grim expression. Something big is happening, he told Marcus. They've cancelled the holiday assembly to hold a closed-door meeting. Security is turning away everyone who isn't on the board. Coach Williams caught Marcus in the hallway the next day, speaking quickly as he pretended to check a bulletin board. The school's financial manager has been embezzling funds for years. They just discovered it during the annual audit. Millions missing, and the accounting is so tangled they can't figure out exactly how bad it is. What does that mean for Westfield? Marcus asked. Potential disaster. They might lose accreditation. Scholarship funds are compromised. The endowment's been mismanaged. Dr. Harrington's job is on the line. Marcus couldn't help feeling a flicker of satisfaction at the thought of Dr. Harrington facing consequences, but it faded quickly. Despite everything, Westfield was still his father's livelihood. That night, against Walter's warnings, Marcus concealed himself in a storage closet adjacent to the boardroom. Through the thin wall, he could hear the heated meeting unfolding. How could this happen under your watch, Victoria? Richard Pierce's voice boomed with authority. The financial systems were deliberately complicated by Matthews to hide his theft, Dr. Harrington responded defensively. The accounting firm says it's one of the most sophisticated embezzlement schemes they've ever seen. Sophisticated or not, the damage is done, a woman's voice stated coldly. $3 million missing from operating accounts, scholarship funds drained, and creative accounting masking it all. The State Education Board is already asking questions, another voice added. If we don't provide clear financial statements within 30 days, we'll lose accreditation. And who's going to untangle this mess? Pierce demanded. Matthews is gone, the accounting firm is still trying to make sense of his system, and none of us have the expertise. We could hire a forensic accountant, Dr. Harrington suggested. At what cost? And can they work quickly enough? Pierce countered. My family has donated to this institution for generations. I will not see its reputation destroyed. Then perhaps your family would like to donate the missing $3 million, someone suggested sarcastically. The argument escalated, with blame being thrown in all directions. Marcus listened intently, the numbers and financial terms mapping themselves into patterns in his mind. He had been studying Westfield's financial documents for months now, fascinated by their complexity. This new information was simply another piece of the puzzle. Without immediate financial restructuring, we'll have to cancel next semester, Dr. Harrington finally admitted, her voice breaking. 200 years of educational excellence, ended by one man's greed. The room fell silent, the weight of potential disaster hanging heavy. I'm withdrawing my donation for the library expansion, Pierce announced eventually. And my daughter will be transferring to Brentwood Academy next semester. I suggest you all consider similar arrangements for your children. Richard, please, Dr. Harrington pleaded. If your family abandons Westfield now, others will follow. Then find a solution, Victoria, he replied coldly. That's what we pay you for. Otherwise, I'll lead the vote to replace you at the next meeting. As board members filed out, Marcus remained hidden, his mind racing. The mathematical patterns of Westfield's financial crisis were forming in his head, complex, but not unsolvable. For hours after the building emptied, he stayed, sketching equations on scrap paper by the dim emergency light. When Walter found him past midnight, Marcus was surrounded by pages of calculations. "Son, what are you doing? I've been worried sick." Marcus looked up, his eyes bright with purpose. "Dad, I can fix it. I can solve Westfield's financial crisis." Walter stared at his son, torn between pride and fear. "This isn't our problem, Marcus. These people rejected you, humiliated you." "I know," Marcus replied quietly. "But I can do something no one else can." He gestured to his equations. "And maybe that's worth more than their rejection." Walter studied his son's face, recognizing the determination he'd always admired. "Even if you could solve it, why would you help them?" Marcus thought of Coach Williams, of Olivia, of the scholarship students who might lose everything because of one man's greed. "Because solving problems is what I do, Dad. And sometimes, the right solution changes everything." For the next week, Marcus worked obsessively on his mathematical model, sneaking into the records room after hours to gather more data. The embezzlement scheme was ingenious: small diversions across hundreds of accounts, fluctuating percentages based on seasonal budgets, all hidden within legitimate transactions. "You need to be careful," Walter warned as Marcus sketched equations late into the night at their kitchen table. "If they catch you accessing confidential financial records, they won't care that you're trying to help." "I'm close, Dad," Marcus insisted, rubbing his tired eyes. "The pattern is there. The money isn't just missing, it's been redirected through a complex algorithm. If I can reverse engineer it, we can trace every dollar." Walter watched his son with a mixture of pride and concern. "Even if you do solve it, then what? You think they'll suddenly welcome you with open arms? These people don't change, Marcus." The question hung in the air, unanswered. At school, the crisis was worsening. Staff whispered about potential layoffs. Students sensed something was wrong as planned events were suddenly cancelled. Dr. Harrington looked increasingly haggard, emerging from marathon meetings with the board. On Friday evening, Marcus was cleaning the math department when Olivia found him. "My father's pulling me out after winter break," she said without preamble. "He says Westfield is compromised. Most board members are doing the same with their kids." Marcus nodded, unsurprised. "The financial situation is worse than they're admitting." "How do you know about that?" Olivia asked sharply. Marcus hesitated, then decided to trust her. "I've been studying the financial records. The embezzlement scheme was brilliant, mathematically speaking. And I think I've figured out how to trace it all." Olivia's eyes widened. "You can save the school?" "Possibly. I've developed a model that can untangle the financial mess and create a restructuring plan." He paused. "But why would they listen to me? I'm just the janitor's son." Olivia considered this, then said, "Show Coach Williams first. He has respect among the faculty." Later that night, Marcus presented his work to Coach Williams in the empty gym. The coach studied the complex equations with increasing amazement. "This is extraordinary," he finally said. "You've mapped the entire financial structure and identified every fraudulent transaction." "It took me a week," Marcus explained. "It would take their accountants months, if they ever figured it out at all." Coach Williams looked at him seriously. "You realize what this means? You could save Westfield Academy. Or I could let it collapse," Marcus replied quietly. "After how they treated me, would anyone blame me?" "No," the coach admitted. "No one would blame you." After a pause, he added, "But that's not who you are, is it?" Marcus thought about the scholarship students who would lose everything if Westfield closed. About Mr. Coleman who had believed in him. Even about his father, who despite everything, took pride in his 15 years of service. "I'll help them," he decided. "But on my terms." When Marcus returned home that night, he found Walter sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of calculations. I spoke with Coach Williams, Walter said solemnly. He told me what you've accomplished. I can save the school, Dad. Walter nodded slowly. I know you can. The question is, should you? Marcus sat across from his father, feeling the weight of the decision. If I do nothing, hundreds of people will be affected. Not just the rich kids, but the scholarship students, the faculty, the staff, even us. And if you help them, after how they treated you? Then maybe I prove something important, Marcus replied. That I'm better than their prejudice. Walter studied his son's face before reaching a decision. Then we do this together. Tomorrow morning, I'll request a meeting with Dr. Harrington. She won't listen to us, Marcus warned. Walter's expression hardened with determination. She will when the alternative is watching Westfield Academy collapse around her. As they prepared for bed, Walter placed a hand on his son's shoulder. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know, I've never been prouder of you than I am right now. Marcus smiled, the compliment warming him more than any acceptance letter ever could. Tomorrow would change everything, one way or another. The next morning, Walter Johnson stood outside Dr. Harrington's office in his janitor's uniform, Marcus's binder of calculations clutched tightly in his hand. When the secretary tried to dismiss him, Walter spoke with quiet firmness. Tell Dr. Harrington it concerns the financial crisis. And that I have a solution. The secretary's eyebrows rose skeptically, but she delivered the message. Moments later, a harried-looking Dr. Harrington appeared at her door. Mr. Johnson, I don't have time for $3,247,892.14, Walter interrupted calmly, reading from the first page of Marcus's calculations. That's the exact amount missing from Westfield's accounts, diverted through 73 different transactions over 6 years. Dr. Harrington's face drained of color. She glanced at her secretary, then gestured sharply for Walter to enter her office. Once the door closed behind them, she hissed, how could you possibly know that figure? The board only received the final audit report yesterday. My son figured it out, Walter replied, placing the binder on her desk. He also figured out how to trace every missing dollar and how to restructure Westfield's finances to prevent accreditation loss. Dr. Harrington stared at the binder as if it might bite her. When she finally opened it, her expression shifted from skepticism to confusion to disbelief as she flipped through page after page of complex financial models and mathematical equations. I don't understand half of these calculations, she admitted reluctantly. Neither would most of your mathematics faculty, Walter said, unable to keep a hint of pride from his voice. But they work. Every formula, every projection. Are you blackmailing me, Mr. Johnson? Dr. Harrington asked coldly. Threatening to expose our financial situation unless we accept your son? Walter shook his head. No, ma'am. I'm offering you salvation. The choice to take it is yours. Dr. Harrington studied him for a long moment before pressing her intercom. Cancel my morning appointments and get Richard Pierce on the phone immediately. Tell him it's an emergency. An hour later, Richard Pierce strode into the office, his expensive overcoat still dusted with snow. His face darkened at the sight of Walter. What is the meaning of this, Victoria? Why is the janitor part of our financial discussion? Because his son may have found a way to save Westfield, Dr. Harrington replied, gesturing to the binder now surrounded by her own frantic notes. Pierce glanced dismissively at the calculations. And we're supposed to trust financial analysis from a child? Your desperation is showing, Victoria. This child scored perfectly on our entrance examination, she countered. And these calculations? I've checked what I can understand. They're correct. Even if they are, Pierce scoffed, implementing a financial restructuring would require intimate knowledge of our systems, accounts, and regulatory requirements. We need professionals, not amateurs. The embezzlement almost escaped your professionals, Walter pointed out quietly. My son found it in a week. Pierce's face reddened. You're overstepping, Johnson. Dr. Harrington, sensing the tension, intervened. Perhaps we should meet the boy who created this model. If nothing else, we can evaluate whether his work has merit. When Marcus was brought in, he stood tall despite his nervousness, his back aching from the stress. He explained his methodology clearly, answering pointed questions from Pierce with calm precision. As his explanation continued, even Pierce's skepticism began to waver. "How did you access our financial records?" Dr. Harrington finally asked. "I didn't access anything confidential," Marcus replied carefully. "I used public information, budget summaries from board meetings, and patterns I observed in documents visible during my cleaning duties." "Impossible," Pierce declared. "No one could derive this level of detail from public documents." "I could," Marcus stated simply. "Numbers have patterns. I just see them more clearly than most people." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This boy, the janitor's son they had rejected, might be the only person capable of saving Westfield Academy. Dr. Harrington exchanged a long look with Pierce before turning to Marcus. "If we were to implement your model, how long would it take?" 3 weeks, Marcus replied without hesitation. 2, if I had proper access to all records. "And what would you want in return?" Pierce asked suspiciously. Marcus straightened, meeting the man's gaze directly. "I want to be admitted to Westfield Academy with a full scholarship that can't be revoked. And I want the truth about my rejection acknowledged." Pierce's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, the door opened and Olivia entered, followed by Coach Williams and Mr. Coleman. "The board needs to hear this," Olivia announced. "All of it." As additional board members were summoned for an emergency session, Walter placed his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Are you sure about this, son?" Marcus nodded, watching as the people who had once deemed him unworthy now prepared to judge his brilliance. "I've never been more sure of anything." The Westfield Academy boardroom had never hosted someone like Marcus Johnson. The polished table reflected the faces of stunned board members as they reviewed his financial model, while Marcus stood at the head of the table, refusing a chair due to his back pain. "This is the most comprehensive analysis of our financial situation I've ever seen," admitted the board treasurer, a banker by profession. "He's identified weaknesses in our accounting system that have existed for decades. And the restructuring plan would satisfy the accreditation committee," added another member, reviewing the final pages. "It's brilliant." Richard Pierce, however, remained skeptical. "Before we celebrate this, janitor's son as our savior, let's remember that he was rejected from this institution for good reason." "What reason was that, exactly?" Coach Williams challenged from his position near the door. Ms. Blackwell, who had been called in as Marcus's rejection was discussed, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. There were character concerns. Disruptive behavior during the entrance examination. "You mean when he stood because of his back pain?" Mr. Coleman interjected. "The pain caused when you shoved him against a chalkboard for daring to sit at a desk." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Ms. Blackwell, whose face had drained of color. "That's absurd," she stammered. I have the medical records," Walter stated quietly. "Bruised vertebrae. Chronic pain. Documented by a doctor the day after the incident. And security camera footage," Coach Williams added, placing a flash drive on the table. "From the hallway outside Ms. Blackwell's classroom. I retrieved it after hearing rumors about the incident months ago." Ms. Blackwell looked desperately to Dr. Harrington. "Victoria, this is a coordinated attack on my reputation. Did you assault this boy?" Dr. Harrington asked directly, her voice cold. Before Ms. Blackwell could respond, Marcus spoke up. "I don't care about what happened to me anymore. I care about solving the problem at hand." "But we care," Olivia declared, stepping forward. "Because it shows exactly what's wrong with Westfield. We rejected a mathematical genius because he stood during a test due to an injury one of our teachers caused, while we've been admitting mediocre legacy students because their families have money." Richard Pierce glared at his daughter. "Olivia, that's enough." "No, father, it's not," she countered. "You sit on this board talking about excellence and standards, but when true excellence appears before you, excellence that doesn't look like you or come from your social circle, you reject it. Dr. Harrington, sensing the situation spiraling, attempted to redirect. The immediate issue is Westfield's financial crisis. Marcus's model offers a viable solution. But the broader issue won't disappear, Mr. Coleman noted. This young man was wronged by our institution. How we address that says everything about who we truly are. Marcus, who had remained calm throughout, finally spoke. I'm willing to implement my financial model and save Westfield, but I have conditions. We don't negotiate with students, or non-students, Pierce said dismissively. Then you don't get my help, Marcus replied simply. And you can explain to parents and the education board why Westfield Academy collapsed when a solution was available. The room fell silent again, tension thick in the air. Finally, Dr. Harrington sighed. What are your conditions, Marcus? First, I want admission with a full scholarship, effective immediately, he stated clearly. Second, I want disciplinary action against Ms. Blackwell for what she did to me and potentially others. Third, I want Westfield to create 5 additional scholarships for underprivileged students with exceptional academic ability. Pierce scoffed. That's extortion. That's justice, Walter corrected. An opportunity for others like my son. The board members exchanged glances, weighing their options. Ms. Blackwell sat frozen, her career hanging in the balance. Dr. Harrington studied Marcus thoughtfully, seeing him truly for the first time. I move that we accept Marcus Johnson's conditions, a board member finally said. Westfield was established to nurture exceptional minds. This young man clearly has one. I second the motion, another added quickly. This is absurd, Pierce protested. We can't allow a janitor's son to dictate terms to this institution. A mathematical genius, Coach Williams corrected. Who happens to be a janitor's son? Dr. Harrington called for a vote. One by one, hands raised in favor of accepting Marcus's conditions, with only Richard Pierce and 2 others dissenting. It seems we have a majority, Dr. Harrington announced. She turned to Marcus. Welcome to Westfield Academy, Mr. Johnson. As the meeting concluded, Ms. Blackwell rushed out, avoiding eye contact, while board members approached Marcus with newfound respect. Richard Pierce stormed over to his daughter. You've made a serious mistake supporting this situation, he growled. No, father, Olivia replied calmly. For the first time, I've helped make something right. As they left the boardroom, Walter embraced his son tightly. You did it, he whispered proudly. Marcus nodded, his expression a complex mixture of triumph, vindication, and the sobering weight of the challenge ahead. The battle was won, but transforming Westfield would be his greatest test yet. January brought a transformed Westfield Academy. Students returning from winter break found Marcus Johnson sitting in their classrooms, no longer invisible, no longer relegated to cleaning floors, but taking his rightful place among them. The whispers followed him everywhere. That's him, the janitor's kid who saved the school. I heard he created some kind of mathematical model even the teachers don't understand. My dad says he's the reason Ms. Blackwell is on indefinite leave. Marcus navigated these whispers with quiet dignity, standing to work at a special desk accommodating his back condition. His academic performance quickly silenced any lingering doubts about his belonging. In mathematics, he was already helping teach concepts to seniors. In science, his insight sparked discussions that spilled beyond class hours. Walter Johnson's role changed too. No longer just a janitor, he now supervised the maintenance staff with a newly commanded respect. The father and son still arrived early and stayed late, but now for very different reasons. Dr. Harrington, true to her word, established the 5 additional scholarships Marcus had demanded. The following semester would bring students from backgrounds Westfield had traditionally ignored. The financial restructuring model Marcus implemented not only saved the school from disaster but strengthened its long-term outlook, drawing praise from educational authorities. Richard Pierce remained the lone holdout, maintaining a cold distance from the changes sweeping through Westfield. But Olivia flourished in the new environment, becoming Marcus's staunch ally and friend. One bright spring morning, Coach Williams found Marcus working alone in the mathematics lab. The board meeting just ended, he announced with a smile. Your financial model has been so successful that 3 other private schools have requested consultations. Marcus looked up from his equations. I'm glad it's working. It's more than working, Coach Williams insisted. You've transformed this place. Students who never would have had a chance are coming here next fall because of you. Later that day, Marcus passed Dr. Harrington in the hallway. Once, she would have looked through him as if he were invisible. Now, she stopped. Mr. Johnson, she said formally. The faculty committee has recommended you for the National Mathematics Competition. Would you be willing to represent Westfield? Marcus thought of the journey that had brought him here, the pain, the rejection, the perseverance. I would be honored, Dr. Harrington. As she walked away, Marcus felt a sense of completion. Not because he had been accepted by Westfield, but because he had changed it. His presence had forced an institution steeped in privilege to recognize that excellence could come from anywhere, even from the janitor's son who once cleaned its floors. That evening, as Marcus and Walter drove home together, Walter asked, "Was it worth it, son? All we went through to get you here?" Marcus gazed at Westfield Academy through the rear window, its imposing buildings no longer symbols of exclusion but of possibility. "Yes," he answered with quiet certainty. "Not just for me, but for those who'll come after me." The story of the janitor's son who saved Westfield Academy would be told for years to come, a reminder that true excellence cannot be defined by wealth or privilege, but by the brilliance that can shine from even the most overlooked corners of our world. Dear friend, this story reminds us that brilliance exists everywhere, in every neighborhood, every background, and every skin color. But too often, our systems are designed to recognize potential only when it comes in familiar packages. True merit isn't about who your parents are or where you come from. It's about your character, your abilities, and what you contribute to the world around you. When we allow prejudice to blind us to human potential, we all lose. But when we recognize and nurture talent wherever it exists, our entire society benefits. If this message resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Together, we can share stories that not only entertain but also challenge us to build a more just and inclusive world.